Hello all, a great afternoon and a warm welcome to each of you who are present and who are watching this particular session. So, welcome to yet another live session of Narayana IAS Academy. So, if you're watching this for the first time, I would like to introduce myself as Sureka Bhaskar, and I am here dealing with the most important topics, or one of the most important topics, which will be or which is a high potential area in your upcoming prelims examination. So this is your fifth class of Prelims Masterclass 2025, where we are dealing with reports and indices. Okay, so if you're watching for the first time, as I already told you, this is actually the fifth class and we have already completed four classes, okay, where we have covered the government schemes from different ministries. That were around 17 ministries, including Ministry of Agriculture, Heavy Industries, Niti Aayog, Panchayati Raj, Fisheries, as well as urban and housing, housing and urban affairs. Then we had the MORT, that is the roads transport, as well as the highways and different other ministries, where we saw different schemes which were in the news for the past 1.5 years, okay, from January 2024 till current, that is March 2025, okay. And moving on, we actually looked or we started with the reports as well as indices. So we started with the reports yesterday. The global reports was actually the topic of discussion yesterday, and today will be the continuation of it, okay. So if we have to see behind me, so we are dealing with reports and indices. We've already covered, if I have to say about this prelims masterclass, we have covered significant portions or the different subjects. For example, polity has taken shape and it is over. So your economy prelims masterclass is over, history is actually over, science and tech got over, and I was dealing with environment and ecology, that also got over. So it was a series of 10 classes, almost 1.5 hours each, covering the 100 most important topics of current affairs, okay. So now we are going to deal with reports as well as indices, and after this we will move on to our international organizations, and post the international organizations we will be looking into the regions of focus, that is the important locations that were in news for the past 1 year, okay. So having said all this, let us quickly jump into our discussion. So we started with the global reports yesterday, if you can recall, or if you are the person who's watching this for the first time, please do watch the other sessions as well, so that you will have the continuity, okay. So we started with what? The global, just give me a minute. We started with the global reports, okay. Global reports, for example, let me just take you through very quickly, so that you will be able to recall, okay. So we started with the global gender gap report, okay. And who releases it, if you can recall? It is the World Economic Forum. So here we discussed what is the concept of gender gap, and what is the methodology, or what are the indicators that are used to calculate this particular or to rank the country based on the gender gap. So we saw India's performance also. We saw different indicators like health, we have the economic empowerment or the opportunities, the political empowerment, as well as the status of education, and what are all the differences in these opportunities that are available to women when compared to that of men. So this was what was called as gender gap, okay. So after discussing this, we moved on to the second topic, that is the concept of intellectual property. These were all the creations or the mindful creations of the people who are called as creators or the owners, okay, which are legally protected so that they can benefit from that at a later stage. We saw different examples of intellectual properties, like your patents, that is actually given, and you have the copyrights, and then for your artistic work or for your writing, then we have the geographical indication, the trademarks, as well as the company or the trade secrets, okay. For example, the formula of Coca-Cola, then you have the algorithm that Google actually uses, all that we discussed over here. So this was the intellectual property, world intellectual property indicators, okay. So this was 2024, and this was by WIPO, that is World Intellectual Property Organization, okay. Then we moved on to the most interesting topic, that is the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, that is SIPRI, that came up with the status of the arms transfers of 2024, that is how much of arms and ammunitions have been imported and exported by what all countries, where Ukraine actually was the largest importer of arms, and seconding, that is the second country, is India. And we saw Russia is the highest exporter, or you can say highest supplier of arms to India, and we also saw how India is trying to diversify its imports and exports. Okay, so this is what we actually looked, the SIPRI report by SIPRI itself. Okay, then we actually saw the UNESCO released report on what, the state of the global ocean report. Okay, so we discussed about how oceans have to be healthy, how oceans have to be safe, how oceans have to be accessible, and then how the productivity should be there. All that we discussed in this particular report. Okay, and also how do we actually have to manage the ocean resources from the hazards that can be potentially created by the ocean. So all that we looked at this, we looked in this particular report. The next one, we saw the status of what, the world migration report, and this was by the International Organization on Migration. We saw which are the pockets of the concentration of migrants and what is the status of immigration as well as out migration with respect to India, and where do Indians actually out migrate, what is the status of remittances that India gets, where we saw the highest remittances is from the United States, followed by the UAE. And also we actually discussed that India touched above, a milestone of around $111 billion with respect to that of remittances. Okay, so all that we discussed in this particular topic, that is World Migration Report. Next, we moved on to discuss about the Global Solar Report of 2024 that was released by the International Solar Alliance, which is actually an alliance brought in 2015 at the Conference of Parties, okay, 21, okay, in Paris, and this was by India as well as France. Okay, so we actually saw what is this International Solar Alliance, when did it come into existence, and what is the the global solar energy potential of the entire globe, where does India stand, and what are the different market dynamics, is what we discussed in this particular topic. And then we moved on to the World Drought Atlas. Okay, so this is brought about by the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, and in this report we actually saw that no particular country, that is no country in this world, is exempted from its proximity, or you can say its potential of being subjected to this condition of drought. And why is this condition of drought is actually persistent in different parts of the world, whether it is because of erratic monsoon, the El Nino effect, all that we discussed over here. Then moving on, we saw the State of Children Report 2024. Here we discussed what are going to be the the State of Children Report, and this was by UNICEF, right? UNICEF, United Nations Children's Fund. So here we discussed that the potential implications, three different indicators are going to have on the children by the year 2050. So what are the indicators? One is actually going to be your demographic dividend shift. Okay, so shift in the demography, where the number of children who are going to be born or under the age of 15 are going to be very less, and the people above the age or the elderly population are going to survive more, okay, because of the lifestyle changes, the social parameters, etc. So this is what we discussed here. The second parameter was actually the triple planetary crisis. One is what, the climate change, next was your pollution, and next is your biodiversity loss, and the final one was the technology or the cutting edge technologies like the artificial intelligence, your internet of things, blockchain technology, and so on. So this is what we discussed over here. And moving forward, we actually saw the Global State of Forest Report. Okay, Global State of Forest Report, and we saw this was released by the Food and Agricultural Organization, where we actually saw the amount or the quantity or the scale of deforestation has actually decreased in the past so many years, whether it was a decade or whether it was a previous year, we saw that. And then the mangroves have actually increased significantly over the past years, and we also saw India's status of maintaining the forest cover, the tree cover, etc. Okay, so this was the report on the forest. Next one, we saw the Food Crisis Report, Global Food Crisis Report, and this was actually brought about by the Food Security Information Network, FSIN, right? So we discussed about the concept of food security as well as food insecurity. Okay, so whether you have access to food at all time or whether you do not have, whether your food insecurity is chronic or transitory in nature, all that we have actually discussed over here. Then we moved on to another topic, that is the Plastic Overshoot Day Report. So we discussed what is this plastic overshoot day report. Okay, so what is this plastic overshoot? It is nothing but it is the quantity of the plastic waste that is produced, manufactured, or it is actually transported by a particular country, and when that goes beyond the capacity of the particular country to manage it, then that was called as a plastic overshoot. And also we discussed about what are the measures that have been taken by India in order to curb the single use plastic, the plastic waste management rules of 2024, how it expanded the definition of manufacturers, importers, sellers, etc. All that we discussed over here. Then we moved on to discuss about the Human Development Index by the UNDP. We saw different parameters on which it is actually calculated: the health, your education, as well as your quality or the standard of life. Okay, so this is called as your Human Development Index. We saw India has a score of around 0.64, and we saw what is actually the worst performing or what are the best performing countries. Okay, so moving forward, the next one, today we will be discussing on the state of migratory species report. Okay, and this is actually released by the Convention on Migratory Species, which is also called as the Bonn Convention, adopted in 1979, to which India is also a member. So this is what we will see, what are these migratory species and how have the corridors of its flight has actually been affected. Okay, so this is what we'll see. And next we will be discussing about the road safety report, global road safety report, that has been released by the World Health Organization. Okay, so World Health Organization has come up with this, and it has found out that there were significant gaps in the governance structure, especially in the middle income as well as the lower income countries, where the rates of accidents are more. Okay, then moving on, we will be dealing with one more report, that is the status of global migrant workers report. Okay, so where are these migrant workers concentrated, in which countries, because of what, and this is released by the International Labour Organization. Okay, so we had recalled till here, and today we will start with these three. Okay, so after completing these three, we will quickly move on to the next set of reports that have been released by India. So what are the reports India has actually come up with? India has come up with the State of Forest Report, State of Forest Report 2024, and this is by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. And the State of Forest Report actually discusses about what is the status of your tree cover, what is the status of your forest cover, and it actually gives you different definitions of tree cover, forest cover, or whether it is a densely crowded forest, whether it's a dense forest, or what is the crown or the canopy of these particular forests, how many hectares of land should it occupy for it to be eligible to be called as a forest, what is the tree cover, all that we will be discussing over here. Okay, so it's very important for you to know the status of the forest in India, specifically when it comes to the mangroves, when it actually comes to the carbon sequestration, that is the blue carbon, how much of it has been emitted, how much of them has been sequestered, all that becomes important. Okay, next we will move on to the India Skills Report. India Skills Report, and this was released by VBox, and here it is in association with All India Council for Technical Education, number one, and then you have the association of all the Indian universities, and then you have the Confederation of Industries. Okay, so CII. So this is where we will see how employable ready, or what is the employability of the Indian youth, what is the amount or what is the kind of skill that the youth actually possess, which are ready for being employed or to be a part of the labor force or the employability market. So this is what we will see here. Next one is the National Health Accounts. National Health Accounts. This basically talks about what is the quantity, or what is the expenditure or the percentage of expenditure that the government spends on this particular sector, that is health. Okay, so what is its percentage with that of GDP, and what is its percentage when compared to the overall expenditure of the government? What or has the out of pocket expenditure that is spent by the citizens for their healthcare, has it increased or decreased? Okay, so basically it actually talks about what is the health infrastructure of India. Okay, so this has been come up by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So we will be looking at various data as well as statistics. Okay, then we will move forward to discuss about the state of men and women in India report 2024, and this has been come up by the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. We will see what is the employability rate or the employment gap or the economic opportunity gap that women have when compared to that of men. What is their political participation, what is their enrollment rate or the dropout rate, what is their fertility rate, all that we will discuss over here. Okay, moving forward, we will be discussing about the annual survey or the status of education report. Education report, and this is nothing but your ASER report, and this has been come up by your NGO, that is your Pratham Foundation. Okay, so here we'll be discussing about how has education transformed the ecosystem in India. Okay, so all that we will discuss over here. Next one, we will move on to the Ministry of Jal Shakti, okay, which has come out with the groundwater assessment report. So here we will be looking into how much of groundwater is being recharged, and then how much of it has been extracted, okay, and utilized, and what is the contamination level of groundwater. All that we'll be discussing in this particular report. Okay, so this assessment is actually carried out by whom? The Central Pollution Control Board under Ministry of Jal Shakti. And finally we will be moving on to the leads report. That is nothing but it is your logistic ease in different cities or different states. Okay, different states report, and this is by Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Okay, so here I hope you actually got a hang of the total number of topics or the reports that India with respect to India we will be discussing. So after discussing this, we will be moving to our next set of indices, that is your global indices. Okay, so what are these indices? Let us actually quickly see what are these indices, after which we will quickly jump into our discussion. Okay, so our indices are, first one is your network readiness index. Okay, network readiness index. So network readiness index is nothing but what is the capacity of different countries in order to leverage the digital technologies, okay, in order to drive their economic growth or move towards a sustainable development, or go or move towards their social inclusion. All those things we'll be discussing over here. Okay, so this has been released by an independent organization. We will actually see which is that independent organization. Okay, so independent organization. Next one, we will move to the Artificial Intelligence Preparedness Index. Okay, Artificial Intelligence Preparedness Index. And this index is released by the IMF, very, very important, International Monetary Fund. Okay, so what are going to be the adoption strategies of artificial intelligence by different countries? Where does India stand? The first position is occupied by Singapore. Whether India has its own AI model or not, what are the implications it's going to have, all that we will be discussing over here. The next one is your this is your justice report. 1 minute. International Justice Report. This is by World Justice Project. Okay, World Justice Project, and this is actually located in Washington. Okay, so this is your World Justice Report, or you can also call that as Rule of Law Index. Okay, so Rule of Law Index, that is by the World Justice Project. You can say it as Rule of Law Index. Okay, and the next one will be the Global Multidimensional Poverty Index. Okay, this is Poverty Index, and this is come up by who? UNDP, United Nations Development Program. Okay, so we will be looking into, is it visible on the board? Yes, right. So we will be looking into what do you mean by multidimensional poverty, and what are the different dimensions under which there are different indicators. You know, you have the health, whether there is education which is involved here or not, all that we will be looking at over here. The next one is your Global Hunger Index. Hunger Index, and this discusses about what is the percentage of especially the children who are malnourished and who are who actually undergo this undernourishment, the wasting, stunting, etc. because of hunger. So we will be discussing about hunger index, and this is by Wealth Hunger Life, released by Wealth Hunger Life and Concern Worldwide. Okay, Concern Worldwide. The next one is Asia Power Index. Asia Power Index of 2024, which is the strongest nation, and you can actually see India as a country in Asia has surpassed Japan. Okay, so we will be looking into this Asia Power Index. This is released by an independent body named LOI, which is actually based in Australia. Okay, next we will move on to the Global Innovation Index. Global Innovation Index. Okay, so what is this global? I think I have to switch to black. Okay, so Global Innovation Index, this is there, and this is by World Intellectual Property Organization, that is WIPO. Okay, because it actually deals with the intellectual properties, what's the quantum of innovation that is happening, and what is your innovation landscape in your economy. So all that will be discussed over here. Then we will move on to understand about the Global Cyber Security. So Cyber Security Index. So this index is by International Telecommunication Union. So ITU came up with this particular index. Okay, then we will move on to understand about the Global Cities Index. Okay, Global Cities Index 2024, and this is by the agency of Oxford Economics. So what are its observations, and how are the cities actually classified? So we actually have the concept of smart cities, right? So all that we will be discussing in this particular topic. The next one is your Environmental Performance Index. Environmental Performance Index, and this is by Yale Center for Environmental Law. Okay, so this organization releases this particular index in order to observe, or you can say to measure the performance of the environment. Okay, so these are all the indices and the reports that we will be discussing one by one today. Okay, so now let us quickly begin with our first report that we had from wherever we have left yesterday. We will continue with that today. Okay, so the first one is State of Migratory Species Report. Okay, so what do you mean by migratory species? These are the birds majorly. Okay, so avian fauna that actually moves from they actually fly from their breeding, from their winter grounds towards the breeding ground. Okay, so these are the migratory species. So recently the Convention on the Conservation of Migratory Species, which is also called as the Bond Convention, has come up with the first ever State of the World's Migratory Species report. Okay, and this was actually launched in the Convention on Migratory Species Conference of Parties 14. Very, very important, and this took place in Uzbekistan. Okay. Now, let's move quickly and look at the Convention on Migratory Species. I told you it is also called as the Bond Convention. Okay. So, this came into existence and it was signed as a part of UNEP. Okay. What are the major objectives of that is to conserve the terrestrial, the marine and the avian migratory species. Okay, not only the birds but also the terrestrial as well as the marine species throughout their range. Okay, to wherever they go, you have to conserve them. Okay, next one, to bring together the governments and provide a global platform, because when they are migratory species, on the way of their migration they can be shot down. Okay, so in order to stop the poaching as well as hunting them down, this particular convention was brought forward. The membership, if you see, it has 133. India is a member or not? Yes, and it has been a member or in close association since 1983. Okay, the headquarters is in Bonn, that is Germany, and there are two appendices. Okay, so we saw, right, sites also had appendices, that is 3, appendix 1, 2 and 3, where there were total number of 36,000 species that were given different conservation status. Okay, under appendix 1, 2 and 3. So here also you have appendix 1, which speaks about the migratory species which are threatened with extinction, and the next one are the list of species which require conservation by all the government collaboration or the international collaboration. Okay, now we will see what are the key findings of the report. First one, the extinction risk is actually more. So over 1 in 5 of the migrating species is facing the threat of extinction. Just know the trends. Okay, don't go by the numbers. Next one, there has been a decline of 44% of these migratory species. Next one, the analysis of the appendix says that 82% of the species in appendix 1 which are threatened with extinction, what happened? These are threatened with extinction, yes, and 76 show declining population trend, and those which are under appendix 2, 18% are globally threatened. Okay, and 42 are showing decreasing population trends. If you see the concern in the fish species, okay, so if the CMS listed fishes are actually taken, nearly 97% are threatened. Okay, so here the problem is what? Extinction. Okay, so this is what is discussed in this particular key findings. The next one, there is worsening conservation status. If you see from the period of 1990s till 2020, around 70 these migratory species actually have faced a lot of conservation depletion. Do you understand? And there are only 14 species which are showing improvement, and also there is a need for protection. So around 399 globally threatened and near threatened migratory species which include mainly the fish as well as the birds that are not yet listed over here, they require protection. The next one, there are a lot of anthropogenic pressure. Okay, so anthropogenic pressure like poaching and everything, they cause what? Habitat loss, degradation as well as over exploitation, and the others are the human induced climate change as well as pollution. The next one, habitat connectivity issues are there. Okay, there are habitat fragmentation that is happening, and also wherever these migratory birds go, no, their corridors are actually being affected. Okay, because of unsustainable levels of human pressure. So these are the key findings of the report. Now let us see few of the conservation efforts that have been taken by different countries globally as well as the initiatives taken by India. The first one is CMS. We know, right? Conservation on Migratory Species, which is a UN treaty for conservation of migratory species. Next one, AEWA. This is nothing but it is Agreement on Conservation of African Eurasian Migratory Species or water birds. Okay, for conservation of the water birds in the African Eurasian region. Next one, you know, CITES, right? Convention on International Trade of Endangered Species of both flora and fauna. This was a convention that was brought in order to take care or to forbid the international trade of the species, okay, and enhance their survival. Next one is Global Flyway Network, okay. So this supports the conservation along the major flyways. Flyways is nothing but the corridor, or you can say the route that these species actually take in order to move from the winter grounds to their breeding grounds. So this is what is called as flyway. You would have heard about the Central Asian flyway and all those things, okay. Now we will move to look into what the Indian initiatives. First, you have the national plan or the national action plan for conservation of migratory species. Here it focuses on the Central Asian flyway. This is one of the other 8 routes that are taken by the migratory species. So you need to know what are the 8 other major migratory corridors, okay. The next one is transboundary protected areas. This is for the transboundary conservation of species. Next one, Project Snow Leopard. This is for conservation of species in the Himalayas. And finally, you have the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972, which protects the endangered species. Okay. So these are few of the initiatives. Now, let's quickly move on to the next article, that is Global Status Report on Road Safety. So this has been brought about by the WHO, the World Health Organization, discussing about the road safety assessment, okay. Now let's move forward and see what are the key findings of this particular report. So what is the report? You know, it provides an analysis of the road safety trends over the past decade from 2010 to 2021. So this will be a crucial baseline in order to measure how much of progress that we have made towards the UN target of reducing or bringing down the accidents by half, okay, by the year 2030. Now, moving forward, we will see what are the key findings of the report. There have been surprisingly decreasing fatality, rate. That is, the global fatality rate per 1 lakh population has fallen by 16% in the past decade. So, road safety accidents have decreased. This is the trend which is important, and you can see 9 of the 10 deaths that actually occur in the low and middle income countries because of the governance structure, because there are gaps in the governance structure. Next one, children and youth, okay. So the road traffic accidents actually cause fatality or death of the children as well as the people belonging to the age group of 5 to 29 years. Next one, the economic cost, it's actually costing around $1.9 trillion, which is equal to 1% of the entire global GDP, which is a high price, okay. The next one, the leading risk factors are speeding. So this actually causes 25% of the traffic deaths, okay, while the alcohol impairs 50% of the drivers, okay. So these are the key findings of this particular report. So what are the different initiatives India has actually brought about is that, first one, we have the Motor Vehicles Amendment Act of 2019. So here you know what are the incentives that are given for the Good Samaritans, okay, for Good Samaritans. The next one, the Carriage by Road Act 2007. Then you have the Control of National Highways, Land and Traffic Act of 2000. Then you have the National Highways Authority of India Act of 1998. Okay. Then if you see the global initiatives, very, very important. Okay. So sometimes they can ask, Brasilia Declaration is often seen in news. That is related to what? It is on road safety. It came into existence in 2015. Next one, UN Decade of Action for Road Safety. 2021 to 2030 is UN Decade of Action. So we saw one more on soils, right? As well as desertification. That also you need to know, land degradation. Next, the International Road Assessment Program. So these are the different initiatives that are brought globally as well as by India in order to deal with the road accidents. Next one, let's quickly see global estimates on international migrant workers. What do you mean by migrant workers? People actually move from one country or one city. It can be intra-boundary or inter-boundary also. Okay, people can move from one city to another or one country to another in search of better opportunities, whether it is better lifestyle or whether it is better employment or better schooling or education for their children. So for all these purposes, people actually move. So the International Labour Organization has actually released the global estimates on international migrant workers. So let's see what is the global labor force as of 2022 and all the important statistics related to that. Okay, so there has been a global increase in the migration of the labor force, right? So the migrants have increased. So if you see, the numbers have increased to 167.7 million in 2022. So this has actually an increase of over 30 million since the year 2013. In 2013, it was around 130 million. And also the total number of migrants have actually reached 284 million, with around 255 million of workers at the age of around 15, okay, 15 and above. If you see the regional concentration, here Europe and Central Asia hosted the largest share of migrant workers. So this accounts for around 35%. Okay, so this is largest. So next is followed by America, which is 27%. Then you have Asia as well as the Pacific around 16.2%. So you just have to know which region has the largest pocket of migrants. That is Europe. Okay. Next one, Europe and Central Asia. Next, the Arab states, like you have, Dubai, the UAE region, that is 13.5. It hosts a significant proportion of the migrants and 37.2% of their labor force, consisting of, so out of this 13.5, around 40% are from abroad. Okay, so foreign migrants. So this is the key findings of the ILO report. Now, we know that there has been a decline in the Americas because people are moving towards Europe as well as Central Asia. Why? Because of stringent law enforcement. Okay, so especially after Mr. Trump has actually assumed power as the president of United States, and you can actually see the stringent laws that is coming up in Canada. Because of all this, people are now resorting to move towards Canada. I mean, sorry, towards Europe as well as Central Asia. So the share of international migrants has actually come down from 23% to 22%. This is because of stringent migration policies. Okay. The next one, the stable distribution trends. However, if you see the decadal trends in the migrants, it has, however, remained relatively stable. And northern, southern and western Europe saw a marginal increase in the participation of the migrants, and this has risen from 22 to 23%. I know this is actually too much of statistics, just know the trends. Okay. Next one, economic concentration in high income countries. You can see that the migrants are moving only towards the high income countries. Okay, and there are only few people who are coming to the upper middle income countries like India, and then you have Sri Lanka, etc. Do you understand? But the others are moving towards the high income countries like US, Canada, Germany, etc. Okay, so now we are done with this one. Now let's move forward and see the different reports that have been released by whom? By India. So first one, we will be discussing about the India State of the Forest report. Okay, so the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has recently released the State of the Forest report 2023 at the Forest Research Institute at Dehradun. Okay, so now let's see what are the key findings of the report. Very, very important. This forest report comes once in 2 years, okay, by the Forest Survey of India, and it has been there in existence since 1987. It provides an assessment of what is India's forest cover, whether we have actually increased in our forest cover, the tree cover, etc. And all these data are collected by the remote sensing data, okay, remote sensing satellite data. And this is what to say, and the field based national forest inventory. Okay, so the database in which all the data is stored. So this marks the 18th edition, that is the current edition, and this actually talks about the forest cover, the tree cover, the mangrove cover, the growing stock, that is what is the amount of carbon that is actually sequestered, what is the the land that is actually diverted for the purpose of agriculture as well as for development, and what is the number of wildfire incidences that is actually taking place, how much of trees are planted as a part of agriculture, that is agroforestry, all that this gives a note on. Okay, next we will discuss about the different definitions, very important, it can come in your examination. Okay, forest cover, what is a forest cover? So all the land, okay, so the entire stretch of land which is more than or equal to what, 1 hectare in area, with a tree canopy of at least 10% of this total area. Okay, so irrespective of who owns the land, irrespective of its legal status, this entire land is called as your forest cover. So any land which is more than 1 hectare and that has more than 10% of the canopy, that is the upper part, right, which is actually the crown, so that is called as your forest cover. Do you understand? So this actually includes your orchards, your bamboo as well as the palm. And here itself the forest cover is classified based on the percentage of the density of canopy. Okay, so the first one, very dense forest, if your canopy density is actually more than or equal to 70%. If it is between 40% to 70%, it is called as moderately dense forest. If it is between 10 to 40%, it is called as open forest, and if it is called as a scrub when it is actually less than 10%. And next one, it is non-forest, which that is this group of land that does not fall in the above categories, which actually can include the grasslands, the snow-clad areas, the deserts, etc. Okay, so this is actually the definition of your forest cover. Next one is your recorded forest area. So all the geographic area whichever is recorded as a forest area in your government records, that is why it is called as what, the recorded forest area. So this actually consists of the reserved forest and the protected forest under the Indian Forest Act of 1927. So this can even include what, your village forest, your unclassed forest, okay, and the area which is designated as forest by the state acts of the act of the central government. Okay, so this is what. Next one is tree cover. What do you mean by tree cover? This is actually the area covered by trees outside the recorded forest. For example, this is the area of recorded forest. So the trees that are outside this recorded forest areas, this can even be small patches of trees either in blocks or the trees which are in linear fashion. So they can be the scattered trees also. Okay, so all these are classified as tree cover. So far we looked at what, the forest cover, then we saw the recorded forest area, and then we saw what you call it as the tree cover. Okay, now let's quickly move to the next one. Here, what are all the legal mandate for the forest cover or the tree cover in India? Okay, so if you see, according to the National Forest Policy of 1988, this actually says that at least 1/3 of the total land area in India should be under forest cover, and when it actually comes to the hilly and the mountainous regions, then it is 2/3 of the area. Okay, so this is when the forest can actually prevent the soil erosion. Okay, okay, this is what is under the National Forest Policy. At least 1/3 of the entire land of India should be under forest cover, and at least 2/3 should actually be in case of hilly and mountainous regions. Next we will see structural definition as per the Kyoto Protocol. See, these are all very important brownie points for your mains exams. Okay, so under your environment you can actually mention all these. Okay, so the crown cover percentages, minimum tree crown cover falling within the range of 10% to 30%. So it said that the crown cover, that is what your canopy cover means, the minimum tree crown that is actually covering from 10% to 30%, and over there India adopted 10% threshold. And it also says the minimum area of stand, that is forested areas, should be a minimum area between 0.05 to 1 hectare, where India actually adopted the higher one, that is 1 hectare minimum. Next, they said the minimum height of the trees. They said minimum height of the trees must actually be 2 to 5 meters at maturity. So these are all the structural definition that is given to the forest under the Kyoto Protocol of 1997. Now, if you see the forest and the tree cover in India, okay, so if you see here, this is majorly your non-forest, that is 74% is non-forest area. This is nothing but the total geographical area. Okay, so total geographical area is what, 32.8 lakh square kilometers or something. Out of that, 74 is non-forest areas. Then 21% is your forest cover. If you see 7.15 lakh, and then you have the tree cover, which is 3%, and the scrub, which is 1.33%. And again, this classification is based on the density of the canopy or the crown. Okay, so this is what is the status of the forest and tree cover in India as per the report. Now let's move to the other findings. I told you, right, forest and the tree cover, this we already discussed. We will see the trends, that is, which is the state or the UT, which has increasing canopy cover, which is having increasing deforestation efforts, etc. Okay, so let's finish this quickly. The total forest and the tree cover in India is around 8,27,000 and so much square kilometers. Okay, so this is the total forest cover. So of the total forest cover, 25% of the country's geographical area is with the forest, right? This is your forest and the tree cover. This includes the forest cover, which is 21%, and the tree cover is 3%. We saw that, right? Next, compared to the previous assessment, there has been an increase in the forest and tree cover. This is all is your takeaway. Whether there has been increase in the tree and the forest cover, yes, it is compared to the previous assessment. Next, the states and the UTs with the highest forest and tree cover. The first is Madhya Pradesh, followed by AP as well as Maharashtra. Then, with maximum increase in forest and tree cover, who are increasing it year on year in terms of area, Chhattisgarh, followed by UP, followed by Odisha and Rajasthan. Next, we will move forward and see the states with maximum decrease in the forest and tree cover. First one is actually your Madhya Pradesh in terms of area. Okay, maximum decrease in the forest and tree cover. 1 minute, I'm just confused with this. We saw state with highest forest and tree cover, that is the area is actually large, but then highest decrease is also taking place over there. Okay, so highest decrease is also taking place in Madhya Pradesh, okay, in terms of area. Then highest forest cover in terms of area, again Madhya Pradesh. Then if you see with highest forest cover in terms of percentage of the geographical area, so first one is actually your Lakshadweep. It has 91.33 of the total geographical area. Then a maximum increase in the forest cover in terms of area. This is actually what? Your state of the UT. First is Mizoram, followed by Odisha and Gujarat. Then the highest tree cover in terms of area. Here it is Maharashtra, followed by Rajasthan, as well as, see, there is difference in the forest cover. There is difference in the tree cover. There is difference in the total area of the forest with respect to when it is calculated as total area or the percentage of, or in terms of percentage of the total geographic area. So you need to pay very very careful attention to these terms. Okay, so these are the different highlights. If you see regional areas, the Western Ghats, which are considered as the eco-sensitive areas, you know about the Kasturi Rangan and the Ghatgil committee and all, no? So 73% of the geographical area of this region is under forest. And if you see hill districts, 40% is under forest. Next one, if you see northeastern region, 67% of the geographical area are under forest. Okay, so this is actually your regional highlights. Now, let's see the mangrove cover. You know these mangroves, right? These are the waterlogged ecosystem. So, here if you see, India's mangrove cover stands to around 5,000 square kilometer, which actually constitutes around only 0.15 of the country's geographical area. It is considered or it is subclassified as very dense mangroves, moderately dense mangroves, as well as the open mangroves, depending upon what? The density. Okay. So, very dense at 29.33 are there, and moderately dense is actually 30, and open mangroves are 40. Okay. So, while there has been an overall net decrease of the mangroves, so mangroves have decreased. So, notable increases were recorded in different regions. Okay. However, if you see now, this is actually compared to the previous assessment, but you need to know decadal assessment. This is what comes in your exam. For the past 10 years, how has the situation been? Has there been a constant increase or a constant decrease in forest cover? All those things you should know. If you see over here, mangrove cover by area of 2023, you can see Puducherry, and the maximum is by West Bengal, which is around 43%. And that is followed by Gujarat, that is 23%. Then you have Andaman and Nicobar, Puducherry, and then you have Andhra Pradesh, Goa, and so on. Okay. Next one, forest fires. Forest fires were also increasing, and there were around 2 lakh odd hotspots that were identified where the forest fires can happen. And the first among India are Uttarakhand, Odisha, and Chhattisgarh. Okay, and as of this particular report 2021, more than 36% of the country's forest cover was estimated to be prone to these frequent forest fires. Then if you see the growing stock, the total growing stock of wood is estimated to around 6,000. This and all is not important actually. So there has been an overall increase, okay, in the growing stock of wood. That's it. This is what is important for you to understand. And towards the end, I will give you the decadal increase decrease also. Then if you see bamboo, the bamboo bearing area is around 1,54,000 square kilometers. So this has also increased. So almost everything with respect to forest has increased, including the deforestation. So the largest bamboo bearing areas, Madhya Pradesh, followed by Arunachal Pradesh, and highest increase was noted in AP, while the most significant decrease was in Karnataka. And agroforestry, this is actually the management, the forest management, one of the forest management systems where you plant trees amidst the agriculture. Okay, so along with the other crops, you plant trees as well. Okay, so integrating the trees with the crops and the pasture. So the green tree cover under agroforestry has also increased by 20%. So everything has increased only. Next, we will see the carbon stock. So we will see the, what do you mean by carbon stock? It is the amount of carbon that this the forest actually sequesters or it stores with itself. So that is why the mangrove is called as what? The blue carbon ecosystem. Okay, so whatever is by the ecosystem that is actually stored, the carbon that is sequestered and kept. Not only the mangrove, you have the peatlands also. Okay, you have in fact the permafrost also. All these are good carbon sinks. Okay, so this is the carbon stock is the total amount of carbon that this particular ecosystem can store, and when deteriorated it can release. Okay, so the total carbon stock in the Indian forest is around 7,285 million tons, and this is an increase to around 81.5 million tons since the previous assessment. And also how much of carbon which is stored in the soil, this is also the largest share, that is 55%. The states with the higher carbon stock, of course, one in the northeast, that is the Arunachal Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh. Now, this is what is very, very important. The decadal trend. Forest cover has increased. Yes. Tree cover, yes, increased. You know what is forest cover, right? I already discussed with you, which is more than 1 hectare of land, and there in the 1 hectare of land, 10% should actually be occupied by this canopy. Okay, so that is called as a forest cover. You know the tree cover. What do you mean by tree cover? Then you know the mangrove cover. This also expanded. This also increased. So when they see in the past decade, the mangrove cover of India has actually constantly decreased. No, it is wrong. It has increased only. Forest cover has also increased. Tree cover also increased. So the agroforestry tree cover also has increased, and finally the growing stock has also increased, and also the carbon stock has also increased. So everything has increased. Okay, so this is the general takeaway that you need to have. Okay, so this is done. Next one, we will move to India's skills report. Okay, so India's skills report 2025, this has been released in order to understand or give us a comprehensive analysis of the employability landscape across various sectors as well as various domains across the world. Okay, so this is what is the skill report and how employment ready are employability or employable ready are our youths to be absorbed into the labor market. Okay, both in India as well as globally. So this is what is this report basically talking about. Okay, now let's quickly move on to understand about the report. Let's actually take a 1 minute break and then we will continue. Okay, so any doubt so far you can actually ask in the comment section. Any doubts if you guys have, you can ask so that we will continue in a minute or so. And also while discussing all these, you need to know what do you mean by the employability and whether it is actually just the process of having the job or whether you possess any other extra skills and the skill set for that job, whichever is required or not, that is what is called as your employability. It's just not about you having a job. Okay, so how well are you suitable for that particular job? Okay, so if you see about this report, it basically assesses the employability trends among the Indian youth. Okay, and that also has a focus on the global talent mobility and India's role in international workforce. In the international workforce, how much of skill does or do the Indian youth actually have? Okay, and what is India's role? Next one, the publisher, it is by VBox in association with the All India Council of Technical Education. You have the Confederation of Indian Industry as well as the Association of Indian University. So all these combine together and they come up with this particular report. Okay, so what is the methodology that they actually incorporate in order to bring out this analysis is that here the employability of the Indian graduates are actually analyzed. Okay, this is based on what they have a particular test. Okay, that is called as the global employability test, and this is actually taken up by so many individuals. Say 10 lakh Indians are actually taken up. Now, this actually gets insights from 1,000 corporations, and here these are spread over different industries. Okay, so for example, it can be textile industries, it can be software, it can be IT, and so on. Okay, and then the data is actually further analyzed. Okay, and then it brings out the rates of employability and what is the proficiency in terms of skill that the youth actually possess, as well as the performance of different states. Okay, so this is about the report. So the employability report. Now, what are the key findings of the report? The overall employability actually stands at 54%. Okay, so significant people have actually scored above 60% in this GET. Okay, so this is what the global employability test that is actually calculated. So if you see, basically people from the BE, that is who have done bachelor's of engineering or BTech, they have a employability rate of around 71%. And the highest among everybody are these MBA graduates. Okay, business administration. So they have the employability around 78%, chances of getting a job and performing better with better skill sets. Okay, so this is what. And then if you see BA graduates, they are around have a moderate employability of only 54%. Don't just mistake, this is not something that I have analyzed, this is something the report actually has analyzed. Okay, so now moving forward, there are also, see, you can also see here how the employability has changed over the years. Okay, so readiness was 47.28% in 2019, and if you see towards 2025 it has become 54.81. Okay, so employability has increased only. So it's a good sign, it's not a bad sign. Now moving forward, here comes the deal. Okay, so there were preferred areas of work. So areas of work that men actually preferred, like getting into what to say graphic designing, or they wanted to be engineer, they wanted to develop their software skills, etc. Where the women actually chose some of the soft skills like textile and the fashion as well as cosmetics, all those things they had done. Even with finance, they want to enroll in the HR positions, etc. Okay, so this is the preferred area of work. Then if you see of the total employability, the male employability was around 53% with the female 46% only. And the states with top male employable resources are Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Maharashtra and Uttar Pradesh. Next, Rajasthan leads in female employability, and that is followed by states of Gujarat as well as Kerala. So these are, it is just your general understanding. There's nothing much to do with knowing these numbers. Okay, so you just have to know what is employability, how it is, the methodology that is actually used for calculating it, who releases this report, and how it is done, and which are the states which are performing better, whether male employability is more, what has been the trend, female is more, which state actually leads in it, all that you need to know, and whether there are male and female preferences with respect to the job. Okay, so this is what you need to know. Next one, the Indian government skill development initiatives. Let's quickly go through, because anything can come in your exam. So Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, so this entire ministry itself for skill development was developed in or established in 2024. Okay, so this brings up different skill development initiatives nationwide. Next one, it is supported by the National Skill Development Authority, National Skill Development Council and 33 sector skill councils. Next one, the National Policy for Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. This actually came up in 2000, sorry, I told 2024, right? 2014. In 2015 is the National Skill Development Policy. So what does this actually focus on? This is aimed at focusing on what are all the skill barriers that a person can have. So whatever gaps are there, it helps in bridging the gaps and it boosts the entrepreneurship. The next one, Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana. So this is actually a flagship scheme of 2015 for skill training as well as improved employability over here by including what? Better curriculum, okay, better syllabus, that is better pedagogy, etc., as well as the skilled set of instructors for instructing. Next one, craftsman training scheme. This is actually a vocational training where it established around 15,000 industrial training institutes, that is the ITI. Next one, Skill India Digital Hub. This actually is a very recent one, that is of 2023, which uses artificial intelligence as well as machine learning platforms, okay, in order to skill or in order to skill up your what to say skill you up to have the skills. Okay, next one is Prime Minister's internship scheme. We actually read this yesterday only by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, where they are trying to create one or involve 1 crore youth, okay, over the next 5 years in 500 different companies, giving them what? Opportunities to work as intern with stipends, or what to say, the financial incentives. Okay, so these are different initiatives that have been brought about by the government. Next one is also your Strive initiative, skill strengthening and industrial value enhancement. Okay, so this is a World Bank assisted project. Sometimes you can see Strive, which is seen in news, what it belongs to, or it is related to which of the following. It is a World Bank assisted project which is improving the relevance and efficiency of the ITI and apprenticeship training. Whether it is related to skill development of or not, you need to know. Very important. Okay, so these are all the different government initiatives for the skill development. Okay, now let's move on to the next one, the National Health Account Estimates. This is nothing but by the Ministry of Health as well as Family Welfare. They have come up for the fiscal years 2020 to 21 and 2021 to 22. Health estimates is what, how much of expenditure does the government do particularly for this health sector, okay, and what is your out of pocket expenditure. Basically it discusses about the flow of funds. That is what is called as health accounts. Okay, so here health accounts means the expenditure as well as the flow of funds for a particular financial year. Okay, so here whatever doubts you have with respect to that of the policy questions, okay, so what are the sources of the healthcare, from where does the government actually source the funds for their expenditure, who manages it, okay, and then what are all the healthcare services, and what is the status of India's healthcare infrastructure, all that, and whether these services are utilized to the fullest, what are the gaps, all that is spoken about in the health accounts. Okay, so national health accounts. So the national health account estimates are based on what? WHO health account system. Okay, so WHO health account systems. So this is just to make sure that you follow the proper guidelines. Okay, so this is what is your health accounts. Next, let's see. Of course, the key findings we need to know, again trends only. Okay, what is the trend? Rising government health expenditure. The government is comparatively spending more on health. So how much it's spending with respect to GDP, how much it's spending with respect to the overall expenditure, you need to know. Okay, so if you see health expenditure to GDP ratio, it has actually increased from 1.13 to 1.84 in 2021-2022. However, if you see the health expenditure of government's total health total expenditure, so government actually gives its expenditure for different sectors, right? It can be for defense, it can be for science and technology, it can be for education. Okay, so all these are there. Ministry of social, it gives for the social upliftment, for all those things. Out of all that, what happens is that the share of the health expenditure, it has risen from 3.94 to 6.12. See, this looks big, but it's actually not big. Why? Because what is the percentage of health expenditure with respect to GDP is only important. Okay, so this is what it is. Next, if you see per capita, government health expenditure has actually tripled. Earlier it was around 1000 something, 1500. Now it is around 3000. Okay, next one, total health expenditure. So there has been an increase. Okay, so total health expenditure has actually increased to around from 3.73 to 3.83 in 2021-2022. Then per capita, this is the rising health expenditure. Yes, per capita, the health expenditure is that this also increased from 5400 to 6600 in this particular period. Okay, next one, the government health expenditure as a share, this also has increased. So basically the expenditure of the government on health actually has increased. Okay, so don't get confused too much with these figures. The total health expenditure has also increased, government health expenditure with respect to GDP has also increased. Then the government health expenditure with the overall expenditure has also increased. Everything has increased. Okay. Now, let's move forward and see there has been a decline in the out of pocket expenditure. Okay. So earlier, earlier it was actually around how much? 62.6%. But what is out of pocket expenditure? How much you yourself spend for the health. Okay. So that has also decreased, okay, significantly. That is, it was earlier 60%. Now it has come to around 40%. And then growth in the social security. That is, there are various schemes, right? Like Ayushman Bharat and everything. Schemes which are brought about by the government, because of which the social security and the benefits or the incentives that the government give has also increased. Then capital expenditure on the health. Okay, so government actually does a lot of expenditure in building, for example, hospitals, etc. So this is what? An added wealth also for the country, right? So this is the capital expenditure. This has also increased. That is, healthcare infrastructure, buying a machinery, land, etc. has also increased. So basically everything has increased with respect to health. If you see government health expenditure as a percentage of the general expenditure, it has increased from 3.94 to 6.12. Similarly, if you see the out of pocket expenditure, that has decreased from 62% to 39%. And if you see the health expenditure to the total government health expenditure to the total expenditure, that has also increased from 29% to what, 48%. Okay, so this is what is the thing. Next one, women and men in India report 2023. Okay, so what is this government and 1 minute. Okay, so let us continue. Women and men in India. So recently, the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation has actually come up with this particular analysis of the status of men and women in India. Okay, so let us actually discuss what is their real status. Okay. So what is the report about? The report is about the socio-economic parity or the disparity that men actually have with women, or you can say the other way, the women actually have with men in India. Okay, so it covers a broad spectrum of areas. So with respect to population, how it is, with respect to education, what is the enrollment rate or the dropout rate, with respect to health, how it is, or the economic participation or the political empowerment that women actually receive. How are all this we need to know. Here it is a crucial resource for understanding the demographic changes. Okay, so what is the change that is actually happening, whether the female sex ratio, or you can say the sex ratio is increasing or decreasing. So what is the total fertility rate that is there. Okay, TFR. What is the maternal mortality rate, all that we will be discussing. Okay, now let's move forward and see what has been the status of population growth. India's population as per the 2011 census was around 121.1, and by 2036 it is supposed to be, or it is estimated to be, around 152.2. So here the female percentage is also said to be slightly increasing. Okay, so it is set to slightly increase from 48.5 to 48.8. So first, the population is going to increase, and in that the percentage of female population is also going to slightly increase by 0.3 percentage. Okay, this is the first observation. Then if you see the percentage of population by the estimates, this is actually the percentage of population as per 2011. So if you see the population from the age group of 0 to 4, you can see the children, I mean the infants are more. And then if you see from this age of 15, that is your demographic dividend till the age of 60 would have been this much, right? But now this is going to further narrow down. That is, the children from the age of 0 to 15 years are going to decrease comparatively. Okay, whereas you can see the elderly population are going to increase, and in that too the percentage of the female population over here, this is going to increase. So this is what is the estimate that is given, and this is the age wise profile of the population by sex, that is male or female. Okay, so I hope you understood this one. Next one, the age composition changes. Of course, we saw this yesterday also, right? So state of the children report, where we saw that the number of children who are there today by 2050 also, they are going to be almost the same, and majority of them are going to be in India as well as China. So, and the majority of population are going to be in Africa. So this is what we saw, right? So age changes, the proportion of the population under 15 years is set to decrease. Of course, yes. Next one, simultaneously, if you see the people who are elderly above the age of 60 years, that is going to increase. We saw that in the pyramid, right? Next one, the working age population, This is nothing but the demographic dividend from the age of 15 to 59 years was 60.7 in 2011, and this is going to increase to around 64.9%. That is, demographic dividend will increase and then it will decrease, we will see. So, the sex ratio, that is how many females are actually there per 1000 male. So, this is projected to improve further because number of female population is going to increase. Okay. So, it was 943 and now it is going to increase to 952. Again, this is not important, but just know females are going to increase. Do you understand? So, sex ratio is going to increase. Next one, age specific fertility. So, before dealing with all this, let us actually move to understand certain terms. So, what do you mean by age specific fertility rate? So, this is nothing but the total number of live births in a specific age group of women. For example, if there are 10,000 women of the age 32 to 40, and over here, how many live births are happening to how many women who belong to this particular age group. Okay. For example, out of 10,000, how many women are actually giving, live births. Okay. So, per 1000 female population of that age group. I'll read again. So, the age specific fertility rate is the number of live births in a specific age group of women per 1000 female population of that age group. Okay, do you understand? So, how many people are there? For example, 1000 people, let's not take 10,000 also. If 1000 women are there of the age group of 32 to 40, in that how many births are actually happening? Okay, per 1000 female population of that particular age group. Next one is total fertility rate, that is total number of births that a female or a woman can actually give in her entire reproductive period. So, that is called as the total fertility rate. For example, if TFR is equal to 4, let's say, that means she actually will reproduce 4 children in her entire cycle. Okay. Next one, entire cycle as an entire lifetime in her reproductive age before she attains menopause. Okay. So, if TFR is equal to 2, that means what? There are 2 total children. So, this is what is your TFR. Next one is infant mortality rate. Okay. That is, before completing the age of 1, how many children actually die per 1000 live births. This is called as the infant mortality rate. So, measurement of mortality in the first year of life and is computed by the number of deaths under 1 year of age. Okay. So, how many deaths before 1 year of age per 1000 population. So, this is called as what? 1000 live births is called as infant mortality rate. Next one, similar one, under 5 mortality rate, that is before attaining the age of 5. What is the probability? Okay, before reaching it, what is the mortality rate per 1000 live births? Again, this is called as your under 5 mortality rate. Next one is your maternal mortality rate, that is number of women who die as a result of childbearing, as a result of some complications in the pregnancy, etc., in a given per 1 lakh live births. So, these numbers are very important. So, 1 lakh live births in that particular year is called as your maternal mortality rate. So, the age specific. So, in a specific age group, how many women of that particular age group and how many live births are actually been given. So, number of live births in specific age group of women per 1000 female population. So, that is called as, okay. So, that is called as age specific, okay. So, how many people belonging to the age of 32 to 40 in the entire female population, how many live births they are actually giving. So, that is called as the ASFR. Next is your total fertility rate, infant mortality rate, etc. Okay. Now, we will see these things. So, age specific fertility rate. Okay. So, there was a noticeable increase in the in the age specific fertility rate to the age group, for the age group of 35 to 39, from 32.7 to 35.6. This actually shows an indicator. This is actually it's an indicator of childbearing among women. Okay, and the AFSR ages 15 to 19 remains a concern. This still remains a concern. So if you see, this is your ASFR, that is age specific fertility rate. So there was an increase in this age specific fertility rate, and from the age group 35 to 39, and earlier it was 32 to 35. Do you understand? Now people are waiting. This is the basic thing. Now people are actually thinking they are once settled. After that, women get into reproduction. Okay, that is what they are saying. Okay, earlier it was 32. People within the period of 30 to 35 also it was there, but 35 would be maximum. People don't conceive after that. Usually thinking of the complications and other things. But these days, women can also reproduce at the specific age of 35 to 39. Very simple. Understood? So, done. Next, moving on is the total fertility rate. Total fertility rate has declined. Okay. So, it was 2.3. That is the total number of children that can be born to a woman was around 2.3. Now, it has declined to 2.0, below the replacement level. So, this is okay. So it is also different for the urban areas and it's different for the rural areas. Next, infant mortality rate, this has also decreased. So whatever are bad indicators, that has decreased, think like that. So your TFR has decreased, okay, because TFR is more means you're giving birth more and more, you're increasing the population, but here TFR has decreased. If you see IMR, that has also decreased over the years. Next one, under 5 mortality rate. This has also reduced. It was 43 and now it has actually come to 32. Okay, from 43 deaths of under 5 children, now it has moved to 32. Now, life expectancy, there is an increase because there is advent of technology. Okay, so there is advent of scientific discoveries which actually result in all these drugs, vaccines, etc., because of which life expectancy of the people have also reached. Okay, so it has reached around 70 years. Okay, so 71 years for the males, and for 71.4 years for the females and 68 years for the males. Next one, maternal mortality ratio. This has also showed significant process, and this has we have reduced this MMR also. So that has actually become what, around 97 per lakh live births in 2018 to 20, with 8 states already below the SDG target of 70. We are aiming to bring it to 70 per 1 lakh. Okay, so done. This we have done. Next one, the key findings, other findings, that is the education. How are people, that is men and women, are faring well with respect to education or not. The literacy rate, if you see, this also we need to understand these things. What do you mean by literacy rate? It is the percentage of literates among the persons of age 7 and above. If you are above 7 and so on, even till 100, whatever you have, the rate of literacy is actually calculated as the percentage of literates among the persons of age 7 and above. Next one, gross enrollment ratio. That is what is your mean level of schooling or enrollment at a particular level of school education. Okay, school education, and this does not matter what age are you in, and this is calculated as what, the percentage of population of the official age group which corresponds to the given school education in the given year. Okay, this is nothing but how much of people are getting the education, that's it, irrespective of the year at a particular level. So this is the gross enrollment ratio. Next one, gender parity index. So this is measured as the ratio of the gross enrollment ratio of girls to the gross enrollment ratio of boys. Looking at that, we measure this particular gender parity in economic participation, in educational participation. Okay, so this is what it is. Next one is dropout rate. This is what is the proportion of pupil or the students who are enrolled at a given level who are dropping out, and or who are no longer enrolled in that particular level. They are called, or that is meant by, the dropout rates. So now let us go and watch what is this education. In education, what is the status of men and women? So the education gap in literacy also has decreased. So earlier there was more gap. Okay, so earlier there was 18.2% gap between the male and the female population. Now that has actually reduced to 14.4. In the rural areas, they actually have a gender gap of 16.5, whereas in urban areas it's only 9.4%. So this is also decreased. So all the good things are increasing, and all the negative traits or negative things are actually decreasing, or the indicators are decreasing. Next one, enrollment at the primary level was 103. Okay, so in 2021, this one suggesting capacity to accommodate all the primary aged children. So gross enrollment ratio has to be increased is what they are saying. Then female gross enrollment ratio has actually been higher than male gross enrollment ratio at the primary level. Next one, the GER, gross enrollment ratio, it is decreasing very sadly at when the education level increases. So primary level, all children are sent to school, whether you're girl or boy. But as the stages increase to your secondary education and as well as your higher education, that is found to decrease. Okay, so this was what the findings of the report. Next one, the dropout rates. Dropout rates in the secondary level significantly decreased, and female dropout rates have been slightly lower than those of the males over the years. The next one, the teaching profession. So female people in the teaching profession, they were actually higher, especially at the primary level, and this has increased. Okay, and the number of female teachers per 100 male teachers also increased. However, female representation, or the female representation, the tertiary education, especially for the role of the teachers, this was lower. Okay, at tertiary level education. So this is what are the things. Next one, if you see the economic participation of the women as well as the male. So you see male actually participate more in the employment because the society has given them the burden of bearing, taking it on their shoulders. So because of that also, the male LFPR, that is the labor force participation rate, it increased from 75 to, it increased, where are we, this is unemployment rate, right? Yeah. So the male participation increased and the female participation also increased because women are also becoming equally independent. Okay, and they are becoming aware. Next one, worker population ratio. This was 78% in the rural areas and 71 in the urban areas. The gender wage gap, however, persisted. Okay, so females actually were consistently earning lower when compared to that of males. Okay, and this was even more pronounced in the urban areas compared to the rural areas. Next one, the unemployment rate, if you see, this has also been decreasing for both the genders. However, the rate of urban female unemployment, particularly between 15 to 29, is higher when compared to that of the male counterparts, because male actually, because of social compulsions, they enroll in any kind of a job, but women are actually very picky, or they are given the roles of actually handling the household chores, right? That's why. Now, economic sector engagement. If you see agriculture, this is the major source of employment because the 70% of India's economy runs on agriculture. Okay, we have rural females who are engaged over there, and if you see in urban areas, females are significantly engaged in the service sector. Next one, specifically in these textile industries and manufacturing, etc. Next one, time use in unpaid is definitely unpaid. Workforce are women only, socially also, because 81% of the females dedicate approximately 5 hours daily to the domestic services like cleaning, vessel washing, clothes washing, etc., compared to 29% in the males. And also females in this particular age group, 15 to 59, engage twice as much in unpaid caregiving. Okay, taking care of the children, taking care or of the elders, taking them to school, cooking, and all those things. Okay, next one, the annual status of education report. Okay, so 1 minute, let me just see how many topics are left for us today. Okay, so we have three more reports that are left, and then we will be starting with the indices tomorrow, that is the global indices as well as the Indian indices. So let's start with the annual status of education report, that is the ASER, that is your ASER report, and that is actually released by whom? The Pratham Foundation, that is the NGO, and this talks about what are all the learning outcomes of the school students in rural India. Okay, so this is what is your ASER report. So any doubt so far, it can be asked in the comment section. Okay, okay. Now let's quickly move. Okay, so key findings of the report. Yes. Now, the ASER, that is the annual survey or the status of this particular education report. This is a what? It is a nationwide citizen-led household survey. Okay, so it's a survey that gives a comprehensive analysis of the data with respect to the status of the children who are going to school and what are their learning outcomes specifically in the rural area. And ASER actually means impact in Hindustani. Okay, it is coordinated by the ASER Center and facilitated by the Pratham Education Foundation. Okay, now this is about the ASER report. Let's see the enrollment trends. What is the enrollment trends at the preschool level, at the elementary level, as well as the older children? Let's see the preschool enrollment, that is from the age of 3 to 5 years. So definitely enrollment at this primary level will be high. Okay, so this has been found to be 77%. Here, the Anganwadi centers, where the child care centers have actually also increased. So the enroll over, that is Anganwadi centers enroll over half of 3 to 4 year olds, and also the 3 year olds actually had risen from 68% to 77%. Do you understand? So earlier it was around 68%, now 5% has been the increase for the preschool enrollment. Now comes from the age of 6 to 14 years. This is nothing but your elementary enrollment. Here, the overall enrollment at this particular stage slightly dropped, okay, by 0.3% only. 98.4 it was earlier, it became 98.1, okay. Then the government school enrollment also decreased because now people are actually of that opinion that the government schools do not cater to the development of the children. Nothing like that. You can actually enroll your kids in the government school also. Okay, so this has also decreased. So it was earlier 73%, now it has decreased to around 66%. Then children of higher age or the older children 15 to 16 years, here dropout rate has however decreased. Okay, so it was earlier 13.1% of the students used to drop out, but now it is 7.9% with girls at around 8.1%. Still, dropout of girls are more. So that is basically because of social pressure and because they have to do the unpaid work at home, because also of sanitation issues, the washroom and the water issues over there, and also because of the puberty issues and also early marriage. So all these are issues. Okay, now let's move forward and see the learning outcomes. If you see the reading skills, okay, so among the class 3, 4 as well as the 8 class students, and what is the respective text they can actually read, all this have also increased. Okay, no need to remember the numbers, these many percentage. So from 48 percentage it has increased to 48 percentage, from 42 percentage increased to 23 percentage, from 16 percentage, and then 45 percentage. Okay, next, arithmetic proficiency also has increased, and let's see the persistent gaps. So 76% of class 3 students, 55% of class 5 students, and 32% cannot read class 2 text also. This is however the gap. Overall, there has been an improvement, but then there are gaps as well. Okay, this is the overall takeaway. The next one, state-wise performance. So notable improvements. If you see Uttar Pradesh, class 3 reading levels increased. So earlier it was 16%, now it has increased by 11%, that is 27%. So other states like Bihar, you have Madhya Pradesh, Tamil Nadu also showed significant gains, and high performing states like Himachal Pradesh and Maharashtra also recorded improvements. Okay, you just have to know the basic trends again and again. I'm just telling you that only. So next one is digital literacy. How many of us actually use these, tabs, as well as the what to say, systems, as well as our phones, in order to watch the lectures, even if we are not able to go to school? And specifically, the need for online lectures actually began after this onset of COVID, right? So here, access and usage, the smartphone access was actually 84% of the rural households owned smartphones, and teenagers, actually 90% have the access of smartphones, and ownership, 27% of 14-year-olds and 37% of these many people have smartphones. Again, not important. Next one, there are gender gaps. Even in using smartphones, there are gender gaps. Boys are actually, they are been treated very liberally at their homes, whereas girls, again, only 79%. But still, this is high. In my days, I was actually prohibited of being given a phone. I got it when I was in my final year probably. So yeah, but my sister actually has, my sibling has it as soon as she completed her 12th grade, which is unfair. Anyways, so boys showed higher awareness of digital safety. Okay, 62% know how to block or report profiles. Okay, where women were not that much aware. Next one, usage patterns. 57% use smartphones for educational purposes. But anyways, when you are using phone, which also has access to your other apps like Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, etc., why not? And also there are some things like Snapchat, where you update the people of the regular activities that you do. All that is there, and 76% use them for social media. See, only 56 is using for education, remaining for other purposes. Okay, next one, your attendance. The attendance of the students have actually increased. It was 72 earlier, and this is 75. Again, not important. And also teacher attendance has also increased. Next one, the basic facilities, the girls toilets, this has increased. Then drinking water availability again increased. And then availability of non-textbook reading materials also increased. That is, except other than the textbooks, what are all the other sources that you actually have to have, that is also increased. And the playgrounds remain stable at 66%. So these are the key findings of the ASER report. Next one, there is another groundwater assessment report that has been brought about by the Ministry of Jal Shakti. Let us actually see. And the assessment was carried over by the Central Groundwater Board. Okay, so let us actually see what are the key findings. This aims to assess the status of the groundwater resources, of course, and evaluate what are all the effects of the what are all the management strategies that the government is taking up, and how well it is applicable in order to recharge this groundwater and to use for the other purposes. All that we will see. The assessment is carried out by the Central Groundwater Board in collaboration with the different states as well as the union territories. Okay, let's move forward and see the groundwater recharge. What is a groundwater recharge? How much of water seeps underground, okay, to your aquifers and adds to your water table through precipitation, snow melt, etc. That is called as your groundwater recharge. So India's annual groundwater recharge is 449 billion cubic meters. Okay, so this has actually increased by around 11 billion cubic meters. Okay, then groundwater extraction also has slightly increased for other purposes. We extract it for a commercial, the industrial, as well as our own drinking purposes, agricultural purposes, etc. Then the stage of groundwater extraction has decreased, however. Okay, so of groundwater extraction has decreased. Next one, over exploitation are there. Okay, so the among the assessment units, 736 are over exploited. The remaining are critical, the others are semi-critical, and the other are safe. Okay, so totally so many units were there. Out of that, these many are critical, over exploited, and others are safe. Okay, so over exploited assessment units are specifically, so where has been the maximum groundwater depletion or extraction in India is the northwestern India, western India and southern peninsular India. Okay, so northwest, so when this is India, you have northwestern side because you have your irrigation, Punjab, Haryana, etc. And then you have the western India, Rajasthan and Gujarat, some of the dry areas, and then you have southern peninsular India also. Okay. Next, what are the government initiatives? Of course, we have different initiatives like the Jal Shakti Abhiyan, and then you have the Atal Bhujal Yojana, and then you have the Amrit Sarovar Mission, all those things. Let's see quickly. Jal Shakti, it was actually in the year 2019. In order to harvest whatever rainfall that you get through building your artificial recharge structures. So, this is what your Jal Shakti Abhiyan, basically about your water management, about increasing your afforestation techniques and awareness. Okay. Next one, Amrit Sarovar Mission. So this came after this 2022. Okay, Amrit Sarovar. This is what? Development as well as rejuvenating 75 water bodies in each district as a part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Okay. Next one, Atal Bhujal Yojana. This is a central sector scheme. Very, very important. This is for sustainable development of what? The groundwater management. Here, the participation of the community is also required in planning as well as implementation. Okay. The next one is groundwater management and regulation scheme, and this is implemented by the Central Groundwater Board. This is basically with respect to mapping of your aquifers and then monitoring of your groundwater. So, the assessment of dynamic groundwater sources and regulating all these groundwater and the recharge projects. So, all these are the different schemes that are involved over here. The next one and the last topic that we will be discussing today is the leads report. Okay, that is logistics ease across different states 2024 report, and this particular report has been released by the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Okay, so let us actually see what is this particular leads report. So the Ministry of Commerce has recently published this particular 6th logistics ease across different states report, okay, of 2024. This is actually an annual assessment. Basically, what do you mean by logistics? Logistics is nothing but what is the planning? Okay, the planning, it can be your transportation of the goods. Okay, it can be transportation of the raw materials from the warehouses till the time it actually reaches the consumer. What are all the processes that are involved, okay, from the manufacture till the selling, okay, in the market or till the supply. So this is what is called as logistics. Okay, so it is the annual assessment by the Ministry of Commerce in order to promote the interstate competitiveness. Okay, who is performing better than who, because there are different categories under which the states are placed based on their performance. So here this actually came in the year 2018 by the Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, that is DPIIT. So this also has a reference framework, that is World Bank's Logistics Performance Index. Do you understand? So there is a difference in both these things. Do you understand? So unlike LPI, which relies, this LPI is there, no, Logistics Performance Index. It is purely a perception based index. What do you mean by perception? It totally depends upon the opinion of the experts, whereas our data, that is this particular this particular study, right? This our leads report. So this is not only based on perception, but it is also on the proper data and the statistics that we have collected over years. Okay, so it is not just the opinion based or a perception based data. So now let's move forward and see leads report methodology. So here, what are the parameters? What is your logistic infrastructure? from your transport, and what are the services that you actually provide, and how or what is your regulating and the operating environment, and finally sustainable logistics, which is introduced in year 2024. This is very important parameters. Next one, the categories. The states are categorized as fast achievers, the movers, as well as the aspirers. Okay, if you see this tabular column, you will understand which are all the achievers. Specifically, among the coastal states, they have divided that as coastal states, landlocked states, southern states, northeastern states, and the union territories. Among the coastal states, the achievers are Gujarat, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Odisha, Tamil Nadu, and then the fast movers are Andhra Pradesh and Goa, and finally the aspirers are Kerala and West Bengal. And then if you see landlocked, Haryana, Telangana, Uttarakhand have actually done better, where the fast movers are Bihar, Punjab, Rajasthan, where the aspirers are Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand. Then if you see northeastern states, Assam and Arunachal Pradesh have done commendably well. That is why they are in the achievers. Next you have the Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, and finally Manipur. Okay, because of lot of crises, insurgencies, as well as lot of the tribal emergencies that are actually happening there, right? The clashes, etc. Next one, in the Union Territories, achievers are Chandigarh as well as the NCR region. Next one, the Dadra, Jammu and Kashmir, Lakshadweep, Puducherry are the fast movers. Then you have the Andaman Nicobar as well as Ladakh as aspirers. So this is how it has classified, okay, the different states as well as UTs based on their performances, okay. So yes, so with this, we are actually concluding today's session where we had discussed a number of reports and indices. So we have actually completed the total number of reports and indices, global reports as well as the Indian reports, not indices. So we are yet to start with the indices. We have the global as well as the Indian indices. Like we have the network readiness, then the AI preparedness indices, as well as the we have the global multidimensional poverty index, and then you have the hunger index, then we have cyber security index. All those we will actually discuss in tomorrow's live session. So with tomorrow's live session, we will be finishing with the schemes, we will be finishing up with the programs as well as the reports, the various initiatives, the various indices. Okay, so after that we will be starting with our next lecture on international relations as well as important locations, which are very important for the upcoming examination. So thank you so much for watching. We'll meet you guys in yet another live session, that is tomorrow. Thank you.